setup here at Pro Tour Baltimore. Starting things off, and hey, do you recognize some of these names? One, Tyler Horspool on Briar, Charles Dunn on Oldham, and this first matchup that we have for you in round 3 is going to be a Briar v. Oldham affair.
Yes, this is a classic battle that we've seen for so many times atop the leaderboards, as it were, not just in the hero department of Oldham versus Briar, but also the names. Tyler Horspool, former champion as well. Charles Dunn's got quite the accolades to his name and is no slouch when it comes to Oldham, starting off here with a Tear Asunder into the, that would be the Titan's Fist. So this is going to give +1, Dominate on hit, discard 2. For Tyler Horspool, this looks like a quick give of the Grasp of the Arknight.
Yes, I think this is turn 1, by the way, as well. Wow, inclusion of Sigil of Suffering, saying, do you want to take 1 ping of damage? Do you want to pitch to stop it? If you take this, this blocks for an additional 1. And obviously preventing the discard effects from Tear Asunder here would be blocking this out.
Charles Dunn getting the short end of the stick here. He's on the offensive, but he's the one taking the damage as Sigil of Suffering making its way back into relevance over here, a card that was so prominent in the Briar list, those redline Briar lists of old, where they would say, hey, I can play offense on defense. We can make that work as well. Charles Dunn and Tyler Horspool both at 2-0. Briar was a hero that I think I fairly disrespected in terms of coming into this tournament. I didn't think it would be a major player here, but who knows? Is that Pulse of Candlehold?
It is Pulse of Candlehold, and that is a huge signal that we're playing a lot more defensively. If we're playing Pulse, that can go and find things later in the game. Playing out the Pulse, I believe, and then playing out a Nimblism. Pulse, of course, doesn't actually have an effect here, but this is creating an embodiment of lightning, allowing you to give go again to your next attack.
Now, this might just be a fact of, again, you're just creating half a go again with it. It also was a block 3. It's a pitch 2, so it does a lot of work here. It's not necessarily out there to go ahead and fish cards back, but you play it when you get it, and paired up with that Nimblism, you're creating the go again effect on the Scar for a Scar, which otherwise would have had a natural go again when you're taking a beating. But in this case, it looks like Tyler Horspool just wants to get a 4 go again right out of the box here. And I think it's getting coupled up with a Rune Chant as well.
Yep, it's going to come across with that Rune Chant. And this is representing a decent little hit, but nothing crazy. And the thing about Briar is Briar can present solid on rate, slight above rate damage until the power turn where you go and find Channel Mount Heroic. And it's that point where if your opponent as Briar finds Channel Mount, you have to very much worry.
So pitching now to create the Rune Chant, as well as following up with the Rosetta Thorn, the best free card in the game, in my opinion, which is going to come with 1, 2, and 2. So 1 Arcane, a 2 spot of Arcane, as well as the Rosetta Thorn. Now, I believe there was a breaking of the chain to create that Rune Chant, which means that the shield, it gets another chance to go ahead and block, and I'm not sure if he paid into it to buff it up to 2. Ultimately, Charles Dunn at 36, Tyler Horspool at 40.
You did protect his life total here. He's got 1 card left in hand, most likely going to pitch this for Titan's Fist here, and just going to swing the old Titan's Fist, threatening for a nice break point, pushing over the top of perhaps some easy just 3-block defenses. And notice there is no embodiment on the other side of things that could allow you to, make this a clean block with a non-attack.
I miss Winter's Wail. I don't know how many more times I'll say it. I miss that card so much. Titan's Fist is getting the work done in terms of breakpoints at 4, no problem here, but there's no threat as Tyler Horspool is happy to just go ahead and throw a card in front of it. Tunic at online now, which could potentially pay for a Rosetta. We're pitching here to create a Rune Chant and come in with another nice attack.
Yeah, it's going to represent 4. This is a fun little inclusion, is Infectious Host, because it allows you to push a breakpoint of 4. But it also means that in certain matchups where your opponent is possibly giving you like Blood Rot Poxes or Frailties, any of those status effect tokens, you can just give it right back. Because you're sharing, and sharing is caring.
Absolutely. It seems like this. See that card on your screen, Infectious Host? I don't know how many times I get on a plane and that's the guy I sit next to. Every time, never fails. It's that guy. And he always wants to talk.
And you're the woman in the front. That is your response.
Yeah, that's me running to the bathroom being, I'll sit here. No problem. We're going to go ahead and block this out. Infectious Host, you're right, is a nice tech card to go in there. And in terms of the 4 for 0 cost that Briar loves to see, it's a nice little tech piece that you can go ahead and throw in there against the plague of blood rots and frailties and inertias and this and that and the other thing. So as it stands now, chipping away here is Charles Dunn, a traditionally and renowned slow kind of fatigue control player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Charles has, in the past couple of weeks and month leading up to this tournament, has topped at a variety of events. Just a solid Oldham player, has consistently played Oldham in these past few events, as we've seen and covered in previous tournaments. Going to use the Crown of Providence to swap out that arsenal and say, not this time.
I learned something awesome. Yesterday I was talking to some of the players in the hotel lobby practicing, and so Crown of Providence, COP, call it the cop-out. You're copping out. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Mortimer, who said he's going to, when he used it, I was watching a game, he's like, all right, I'm going to cop out here and put it down. I was like, that is brilliant.
Truly brilliant. Here we have a Bramble Spark fused, and then he's going to play the Earthlore Surge. That's going to add the big buff. I believe that buff's for what?
5. That is 5.
Yeah,
that's the red surge.
Yeah. Oh, and look at this.
Oh, nasty.
He is exuding confidence, and this is going to come for a lot of damage. 1 arcane ping, but it's going to come for 8 plus 4. I can't do math, but if I could do math, as a music teacher, I can only count to 4. But that's definitely a lot.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that that's 12. Or it's 66, or who the hell knows? Well, you're getting the +3 off the Bramble, +5 off of the Earthlore Surge, and a nice solid 4-stack with the Exude here. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty nasty. It's high to the sky. It's a 12 spot that's being presented here. No D-reacts possible here.
No, and you have to do this at instant speed right now in response to this before you declare any blocks, because this turns off all instant effects. It turns off all defense reaction effects, and basically says you have to deal with this 12 damage just from cards from hand. You have to play fairly as the Oldham player. How dare they do that to Oldham?
I mean, if he's holding a Pulverize, he can, I guess, block with Pulverize and do
look
some
at that.
stuff.
He's holding a Pulverize.
Is he actually?
Yes.
All right, it's perfect. Well, Charles Dunn is just making it rain with the right cards that he needs. But okay, so what Tyler Horspool is saying here is, hey, you got to deal with the arcane damage first.
That is correct, yes.
So that is still on the stack. Charles Dunn is facing down a 12-point Exude Confidence. That is such a great card in terms of sort of circumventing a lot of more defensive builds. But if you've got a Pulverize in hand, that means that Tyler Horspool is going to have to buff that up, which you can do. It's costly, but I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I think Tyler's just going to be happy to just punch through for damage and follow through with the Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah, and this does have go again off of the back of the 2 non-attacks played, and so you are looking at this, following it up with the resource floating to just throw 2 and 2, or even extend further if the card in hand is a natural go again. Something like Ravenous Rabble could just really push this turn into crazy damage ranges.
Still on the stack over here. We're a few turns into this game. Both players have really thrown it, but it's been mostly Tyler who's has been in the driver's seat. Charles Dunn has played this game for so long on Guardian, completely, buckled down to say, I have seen damage this tall. This does not scare me. I can navigate this no problem.
And he's looking like he's lining up a 3-card block here, and this would prevent a large portion of damage, but it does open him up to taking damage on the follow-up. He's going to throw that out there. That Pulverize is indeed out there. He's going to pay that last resource there to chuck in the block on the Rampart as well.
So it's going to actually soak up 11 over here. You've got 9 coming from the cards from hand, the 1 from the Rampart of the Ram's Head, plus the 1 prevention from the Crown of Seeds. So you're taking 1 off of that. You are creating the embodiment of Earth, but I think when you're in the driver's seat, that's just the formality, and we're going to go ahead and follow that up with the 2 and 2.
Yep, and the 2 and 2 just seems great because it allows you that arsenal card and possibly to set up a big 5-card hand. And those are the types of things that you want to set up against a Fatigue Oldham, assuming that this is more of a Fatigue style. At the very least, playing defensively.
Yeah, well, you're getting work done. Again, it's you got to play the long game over here, and Charles Dunn is going to be better equipped at that than Tyler Horspool on Briar. But what Charles Dunn is hoping for here is for Tyler to find one of those classic Briar hands of 4 non-attacks or some no way to get go again, or really something that is going to be just just a part like half-dried cement. Really difficult to navigate through this quicksand type of hand that gets you all mucked up. Charles Dunn is just going to arsenal and to see what Tyler Horspool can send back. He weathered a little bit of a storm here. That was a big hand. That was a big play there from Tyler.
Yeah, and it represented 3 damage leaked through, and Charles was still able to tuck in an arsenal. Now starting off with a 5-card hand, again, is Tyler here, starting with Nimblism and a Bramble Spark. No fuse here, but this is going to do the Embodiment of Lightning trigger as well. And what attack is he going to stack on top of this buff and this Arcane Grant? And it looks like it's just another Infectious Host. So still digging for that Channel Mount Heroic turn, still sitting back. It could be the card that is in Arsenal, in fact. He could just have been on a hand that doesn't support the Earth card pitch, right?
Yeah, he's creating that Embodiment of Lightning, so he's going to give the guy in seat 17D go again. And it's a 7 attack, which again hits that break point. Multiples of 3+1 is what you want to get at, and Charles Dunn has a handful of 3 blocks, I'm guessing. That's usually how Guardian rocks it. But the effect of Infectious Host is not really what it matters here. There's no tokens to sort of share around over here. But it looks like is
blocking with Disable and then Sink below here. Is he going to choose to Sink? Now, that means no Crown trigger, so no damage prevention floating. And he's just going to be content to throw out the Scar for Scar, which does not have Go Again, and present Rosetta for 2 and 2, keeping that Arsenal card for later. And I very much wonder if that is just the card he needs to really pop off on a turn in the form of Channel Mount Heroic.
Charles Dunn weathering the storm here, sitting at 32-card hand, so that's going to be a little swing for 4.
Coming across for 4. He's got the Arsenal set up, possibly with that extra card in hand, so he can continue to prevent a little bit of damage. Man, just the power of a Crown of Seeds in Oldham is it's really unrivaled.
It's brilliant. And when Tales of Aria came out, you're evaluating all the cards, and I had it all mixed up. I looked at this card. I said, it's okay. I didn't think it was going to have that big of an impact. People figure things out, and I've been known to be wrong every now and then. In fact, all the time is when I'm wrong. So there's a Gorganian Tome. That's just going to go ahead and draw off the top. It's half a Go Again if necessary, but it's going to be followed up by an E-Strike mode to be determined. I would suspect it might be a Go Again option here, but maybe Tyler just wants to preserve the card in his arsenal and just go tall here. So, nope, going for the Go Again. So it's 5 Go Again.
So choosing Go Again here means that we have a card follow-up. We've got a 2-card hand left over. Didn't choose to draw a card, so we have what we need to put together a solid turn, and a Coax a Commotion. Now, this does not have Go Again currently. We did not play 2 non-attacks, so we didn't create an embodiment after that E-Strike, but we could possibly consider snapping it and continuing the turn with possibly a Rosetta.
Coax of Commotion is such a fascinating card because you get to choose what you're giving your opponent, and in this matchup, you can give him the Quicken token because there's not enough for Charles Dunn to, perhaps play an attack and swing a hammer or such. It's purely from the situation of you want the Quicken token for yourself, knowing that Charles Dunn is going to burn it for nothing. You want to have that free Go Again to open up a particular turn because in that case, you might have an E-Strike for a draw card with a Go Again. And again, for Tyler to punch through on Charles, like you said, he needs those 5-card hands. And creating that option for the Quicken token is a great option. As you said, there you go. Everybody gets one. Charles Dunn is not going to get the same kind of value that Tyler's going to get from that card.
Yeah, exactly. It's a symmetric effect that's not quite so symmetric, right? So choosing how to play the rest of this turn out, we did choose to Snapdragon Scalers this to give Go Again. We could simply close this turn out with, just another 4 attack here. Now this is going to consume that Quicken, so you are technically following this up with that Tunic resource into a 2 and 2 Rosetta most likely. But this is pushing a lot of damage over the top. And yes, your opponent does still have 3 cards in hand, but you're going to be possibly taking a few of them here.
I wonder what's in his arsenal. If that's a Lightning Surge in arsenal, this turn can get out of control real fast. Charles Dunn bleeding life over here. That card in Tyler Horspool's arsenal is still a mystery. You see him kind of hovering over it a little bit, but there's the Tunic. So it looks like that card in arsenal is not really meant for this particular combat chain. It might be another Sigil of Suffering.
It could very much be a Sigil of Suffering. It would be a strange, when you have the tempo like this, tucking a Sigil of Suffering, you got to get it out of your hand by pitching it or by tucking it down there and playing it out, but you have the tempo, and that's why it leads me to believe that it's possibly a Channel Mount Heroic, and he just hasn't found the Earth cards. And this is a good threat here with the Command and Conquer to possibly say, well, if that's a card you care about, you're going to need to protect it and give me back some of this tempo.
Again, let's think about what this telegraphs over here. Charles Dunn took damage to preserve an opportunity to swing back with Command and Conquer and hold 2 cards. Now, we know Oldham wants an arsenal, but that was one card that he's holding on to that doesn't have any options. So what is it? It's obviously a pummel.
Yep, there's the Tunic pummel play, the classic get rid of your hand, get rid of your arsenal play.
And it has go again.
Oh, and look at this. It was neither of those cards. It was simply just another attack, and he chose not to throw it on previous turns, which is a very interesting choice and strategy, perhaps waiting for that Channel Mount Heroic to really send that turn into overdrive and present a lot of damage.
Charles Dunn just crushing damage and cards out of the hand. That's 2 peeled away. Charles Dunn opting to just go ahead and burn that go again. Doesn't need it. Pockets the card in Arsenal again. That's very important because Crown of Seeds is going to do so much work here for Charles Dunn. And there's another opening salvo of a Bramble Spark fused.
And he's going to pitch here the fuse card, that Amulet of Earth, to create a rune chant off of the gloves, off of the Grasp of the Arcanite, and play out the Rav, unfortunately finding, I believe that's a yellow, unless he's running the red Autumn's Touch. But still representing an extra buff here off of the Bramble Spark, sending Arcane as well.
Yeah, so let's say it's a red. So if that's a 4 plus a 3, that's a 7 attack with the Rune Chant Chaser as well. Charles Dunn here has done a good job, actually, of closing out and really closing the gap in terms of life totals, protecting if possible here. So he's going to address the Rune Chant first.
And the Arcane from the Bramble Spark.
You're right.
He can pitch to stop both of them with the glove, or sorry, the shoes here to prevent both sources of Arcane with a single pitch, which is great. Could also Crown if that Arsenal card is something he just doesn't really care too much about or wishes to have it in sort of the pitch stack at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, that's an important thing to note, is that this Arcane is being packaged in 2 pockets of 1. So Charles Dunn can actually pitch to use those Boon Boots twice rather than just, having to address, let's say, a Rosetta Thorn, which comes in as a package of 2 Arcane, which he only has the AB1.
Yeah, it looks like that Autumn's Touch on top is a blue. And that's the worst case scenario when you play Ravenous Rabble, is finding that on top, any blue on top, because then you're pushing 2. Base 2 plus the +3 from Bramble Spark. So at the very least, you at least got some value on a breakpoint of the +3.
Charles holding on to Glacial Footsteps. Looks like that's what's going to be donated to the cause of here, alongside the Rampart of the Ram's Head. So that's a 4 block presented. I think he's also going to be able to... does the Prevention of the Crown float over, or is there going to be 1 leaked over?
Well, let's see. He had to deal with 2 sources of Arcane, and I believe he took 1 of them, but is able to pitch for the Crown.
Tunic. There's no Tunic. There's no counter on Tunic, so I believe he used his Tunic.
They fixed it. So
never mind. My bad. My bad. I'm all discombobulated here. You look so handsome, damn it! Like, how can I possibly split my attention?
There's the follow-up with the Rosetta Thorn, as we expect, for the 2 and 2. And look, they put it right back down to 17.
See, I think that in all honesty, Tyler Horspool has to lean on the Rosetta Thorn because it's probably the most efficient way to actually leak through with some damage. Obviously, going super wide, having a combat chain that's just out of control and super tall is going to punch through for damage, but having these awkward pockets of arcane damage and physical melted together, that's how you're leaking the 1 here, the 1 here, the 2 here, a little bit here and there. Charles Dunn actually giving up the Command and Conquer. Now, that was actually something I wanted to bring up earlier, was that depending on how this combat chain resolves, if Tyler Horspool actually finished the turn with a card in hand, or Charles suspected as such, then it's an easy blue pitch to send Command and Conquer. Yep. But since Tyler opted to just dump the entire hand, that card then became a lot more expendable.
Yeah, I think you touched on one of the sort of key cards in the matchup is Rosetta Thorn, and just a key card in general for any Runeblade, because it does present so much scary, hard to deal with damage being split damage. But the other key card we still haven't seen yet. Oh, a Premeditate coming out as a block. It's fantastic. But we still have not seen any of those Channel Mount Heroics, and we can assume that they're lurking around in the deck somewhere. Just unfortunate to not find those. in these first, well, I guess at this point we're deep into the game, and we still haven't found one in the deck. Probably about halfway through the deck.
Command and Conquer playing into Oldham seems like a very unique choice, given the fact that it's just so simple for Charles Dunn to rescue that card in the arsenal. You just pitch, toss it away, and then you can, go ahead and block the old-fashioned way. Ultimately, Tyler opting to say, like, hey, maybe you're just rocking D-React. It's not just about attacking the arsenal. It's about the other text on that card saying, if you've got D-Reacts or Oldham, there's a good chance that you might find other ways to efficiently block this. But there's an E-Strike as a nice response from Charles Dunn. Again, a card that is so efficiently played. You just need something to pair up with it, and you got 7 damage.
Yeah, coming across for 7, and did Tyler finally find one of those cards? If so, he may just choose to take this damage. If he found, the nice setup for a big Channel Mount Heroic turn to really try and push the extra damage. We do see he has a Swarming Gloomveil in hand, trying to make out what other cards are floating around in there. But it's at this key point where if you start to take too much damage, you can't effectively set up a large turn without just pushing yourself into a very scary danger zone of damage.
Tyler Horspool, I believe, was the winner of the Calling in Las Vegas, one of the first few tournaments that
the very first large-scale Calling tournament that Flesh and Blood ran.
Charles Dunn, also somebody whose name appeared in one of those magic envelopes. I won't tell you who, but Charles Dunn is certainly one of those players that a lot of people have high hopes for. Has really crushed it in Swiss rounds in the past. Has had great tournament performances in the past. This is truly a matchup to behold here. Tyler Horspool now 5 go again with the E-Strike. He took the damage, like you mentioned, so he's got to be holding on to something spicy here.
Yeah, at the very least, he's got some amount of huge damage potential to just eat the 7, or your hand was just really poor at blocking. But we do see a 3-block quality card here that can push damage, so perhaps he's got something in the works for a turn like this.
I feel like if you're Briar, you're almost, I don't say never blocking with E-Strike, but it's such a potent card. You can't say no to that, especially when your opponent is at 15. So we're going to block this out, not just with the Rampart of the Ramsard blocking 1, but we're going to throw a Sink Below in front of it to soak up a little bit. We're going to... Our Crown's still an option, but we can leak some damage.
Yeah, still open to Crown here, and there's the Command and Conquer follow-up. Now, this is interesting. The Crown is, like you said, able to just swap that card out, but this is also just presenting damage that you have to deal with, and it means that you're pulling, at least a card out of the hand just to prevent, in this case, some extra damage. Possibly even both cards.
Tyler Horspool, I believe, missed the opportunity to create an Embodiment of Earth token.
Yes.
Will that come back to bite him? We don't know. I think that if you're on the offensive,
no, I think he actually completely blocked it with the Sink and the
oh, right, it's the
block,
5.
so
That's my bad.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm still thinking about Charles Dunn with this. Again, you're too handsome, damn it. What do you want from me, okay? There's numbers and letters everywhere. It's up is down, left is right. But
this, it looks like he's lining up his own 6 block just to prevent the rest of this, because you can't cleanly just, block with a single card plus the Crown. You're still leaking damage and you're still losing the arsenal. So he swaps the arsenal out, and he's going to just give him both cards to prevent any of that damage, and that just means that his turn is going to be Arsenal Pass.
And that's fine. Look at that. No damage done. Charles Dunn is going to be able to get out of this turn. He's not going to be able to actually hit back, but he is going to be able to go ahead, take the Tunic up, put a card in Arsenal. It looks like a Macho Grande, and just pass the turn. And Macho Grande obviously is not going to do him any good over here. He's not going to opt to just swing Hammer.
That's the interesting thing. It looks like he's actually trying to decide if he wants to swing the Hammer to try and take a card out. That is very interesting. So this is turning off his ability to use Crown as a defensive tool, but he's saying, you know what, I can't. At this point, we both have not seen a single Channel Mount Heroic. I can't let you find it this key turn and have a 5-card hand. And so maybe I can take a card from you? What an interesting choice here.
I'm really curious. I mean, this is a play I would see in a situation where Tyler Horspool has to give up a card, where that 4 represents lethal, then that is certainly a play that you can make. This is a very, very dangerous decision that Charles Dunn has opted to make here, to give up such a valuable asset, which is that Crown of Seeds Arsenal play. Tyler Horspool is just going to sign for the package and say, all right, it's my turn. 5-card hand, let's boogie.
What's he going to do? He's going to double pitch into, an Earthlore Surge red, perhaps? Oh, he's taking the Tunic resource.
Oh, boy.
Taking the Tunic. All right, he was able to catch it before it slammed down. Now he's going to throw Earthlore Surge into Exude Confidence for a massive amount, looking like 9 damage coming across, and begging the question of how are you going to throw, some cards in front of this.
There's no way to give this go again. Charles Dunn may have just read the hand and said, dude, you might be just gooned up with red cards.
And look what he had to pitch to do this.
Yeah.
It's a red hand. There was really no way for him to read that unless he read Tyler's expression. Outside of that, this is the first time we've seen Channel Mount, and of course, it's paired up with 1 Earth card, but no way to pay for it.
Incredible. Charles Dunn just staring down Tyler Horspool and saying, I don't think you have it, and then went ahead and swung a hammer. And here we are. Charles Dunn is going to go ahead, send the last piece of equipment, use the Tunic, and block with a Spinal Crush. So that's going to go ahead and soak up 5 of the 9. 4 is going to leak through. Charles Dunn is going to... he's going to close this out as well. Yep. That is a full keep here.
And he is able to use this defense reaction effect because he blocked with Spinal Crush, which is 9. And so it's meeting the requirement of Exude Confidence there and allowing him to kind of cover this up and give him a 2-card hand. What a pivotal moment where you finally draw that key card, but you can't pay for it, and your opponent got some damage over the top on you on the previous turn, and they can do it again.
Incredible, and this is where this is going to start to pay dividends because you can only disrespect the 4 for so long. Tyler Horspool has only so much runway left, and that 4 is coming in pretty heavy here as it represents almost half of Tyler Horspool's remaining life total, and Briar is not caring too much about life gain. Charles Dunn has the opportunity here to play super defensively if necessary and continue to poke you with the Titan's Tickle.
Yeah, we've seen several Earthlore Surges played, so we know that those are out of circulation, so we're not going to be drawing into as many of those. We have less Earth cards. We've seen a couple of Autumn's Touches make their cycle through, which means they're not lined up necessarily with another Channel Mount Heroic here. So if you're looking to really push could this be it? It was another one in hands and an arsenal prior to this, and there finally we have the setup for a big, powerful swing play with the pitch on the So Tomorrow, allowing you to stick this Channel Mount Heroic.
What a couple of turns this has been from the moment that Charles Dunn made the decision to just forego having an arsenal to swing with the Titan's Fist. Tyler Horspool's return volley of 9, which was just loaded with red cards, ultimately met by Charles Dunn full-on defensive posture. And now the return is going to be the first Channel Mount Heroic of this match.
This late in the game, but you know what? With enough life to finally be able to establish this, you might often, or just straight up prefer to have it here in the end game when it's going to make the end game so much more difficult or so much more uncomfortable for Charles to really deal with. And here he's going to have to throw 2 cards down to prevent any damage whatsoever on a vanilla Scar for a Scar with Go again.
Now, don't call me old-fashioned, okay? I prefer to have my Channel Mount Heroics early and often, so and late too. Why not? And unfortunately for Charles Dunn, he found them at a really difficult part of this matchup. There's the Go again off of a snatch too. This turn is far from over, ladies and gentlemen.
If you thought this turn was over, Tyler said, "No, wait, there's more. Here's the second verse."
So that is going to be a pitch of the Rouse the Ancients. That's a 2-block. So you got to get rid of those. You want to be able to have as much defense as possible. Looks to me like it's going to be closed out here with the remaining resource is going to go ahead and pay for that. That's going to close this out.
He's gonna give everything he has. All of his cards in hand are gone to try and stop and stymie the damage coming across. But now Tyler has a new 4-card hand he's going to draw into. Charles is going to take up the Tunic and pass with no cards in hand. And with a Channel Mount Heroic established on the board and possibly some interesting little trick plays you could do with Amulet of Earth, can Tyler find a window of damage here?
Charles Dunn, no more arsenal over here. Tyler Horspool may have found the nuts. He may have found absolute rags in this situation based off the fact that he's got a 4-card hand and a Channel Mount Heroic up and running. He's at a lesser life total. I believe we've seen 2 Scar for Scars. How's this going to start? This is a Ravenous Rabble peeling off the top. Is that a blue?
I think he found, what is that? That's Force of Nature.
That's a blue.
He finds Force of Nature, so only pushing 5 here.
Oh, goodness. Charles Dunn dodged a major bullet over here. Tyler Horspool does not want to see that. Force of Nature is a great card to have in hand, but not off the top when you're rolling with a Ravenous Rabble. Charles Dunn does have the luxury of having a little bit of a cushion here, so he could just take this.
Yeah, and I think he may have just really lucked out, as you said, of avoiding massive amounts of damage that he has to deal with, and it looks like he is just going to accept the bill and pass over one of those embodiment of Earths to Tyler. But let's see, Tyler has a 2-card hand after this, or maybe a 3-card hand.
We're not done. There's a Nimblism that's going to follow up over here. What is it going to connect with?
He had another Force of Nature there, and that's a give and take. So he's going to push some extra damage with this give and take, allowing him, if the card is blocked, to go and grab more of those cards from his discard and pop them back into circulation in the deck. Give and take, a fantastic card from Outsiders. One of my favorite, in fact, from the set, because it really allows you to play more of an anti-fatigue strategy, especially when paired up with large buffs like Nimblism and Channel Mount Heroic, because this is representing 9 damage on the face of it. It's got built-in Go Again. You have the capability of following this up with Rosetta, and you can, reasonably expect that your opponent's going to block some amount of this damage, and you're going to gain some amount of cards back.
Yeah, Tyler Horspool with the give and take here. It sounds like a fair trade here, but he wants to be giving damage and taking cards. So it's all on one side of the table here, as that 9 spot is looking mighty difficult for Charles to navigate and circumvent here. But he's holding on to a staunch response. So 1 blue can gobble up a lot of the defense here. The question is how does he opt to block this, and what does he want to give up? I think that at this rate, Charles Dunn, yeah, that is a perfect timing. Tyler Horspool is throwing everything but the kitchen sink at Charles Dunn, but Charles Dunn has been very, very timely with these cards.
Yeah, and that will not trigger give and takes effect because it is a defense reaction and not an action card that is used to block it. And so therefore, you're not going to find anything, but you are leaking 1 point of damage, and you're putting your opponent down to 2 cards in hand with Go Again continuing. So you can still follow up with the old Rosetta for 2 and 2 here.
Tough spot here. Charles Dunn is like, do I just take this? I got to start throwing something back. Tyler Horspool has no cards left, so no arsenal. He could send a card back. So he's taking it.
Yeah,
I like this. I like this move by Charles Dunn. You want to be able to pitch and throw the hammer and put Tyler Horspool to a place where he has to now respect the hammer consistently, and it's going to be a 2-card block, right? Like moving forward, if Tyler opts to take this, the follow-up turn is you better have a 3-block and you better give up some equipment.
Keep in mind, we know the top of his deck based on that Ravenous Rabble, and it is a Force of Nature which blocks 3, and that embodiment is going to make it block 4. So this becomes a nice 1-card block, but it means that you do have a 3-card hand and no more channel. And so you're kind of, in a way, stuck to just whatever you have available to you. So he may just choose to throw, just the equipment and then drop down to 2. So that he can keep a 4-card hand and try to find a way to pressure again.
That's the question I was going to pose to you, was what if that's just his only blue? Maybe that's the only gas he's got, but he's playing it instead.
It might be the only way for him to push extra damage because this threatens a lot of draws. And look, he had multiple blues. Wow.
Look at that. That hand was loaded with Earth.
Only 1 attack in the hand, though. That is a problem if you're staring down Life Lead Oldham. This is representing 10 damage. That's not 64. He would love for it to be 64, but unfortunately only 10 damage, and you're playing against the best defending hero in the game.
It's 10 damage, but it's a card draw as well.
It is. It's actually a lot of on-hits here that could threaten a lot of different things. It creates a different variety of tokens, could draw a card off of Pokes, could create a Quicken, could gain a life. It draws a card certainly off of Force of Nature, so this is a must-block scenario.
It's absolutely must-block scenario, and Charles Dunn does have the tools to do so. His equipment is kind of all done here, unfortunately, for Charles Dunn. He doesn't have much that he can give to the cause. You do have the Tunic. Tunic's sitting with the 1 resource token, with the 3 counters on it, opting for potentially giving you 1 resource. Charles might actually use the Tunic and give it up here, which is what he's doing. So he's going to use the resource token to go ahead and cycle the card with Crown. Now that actually opens up the Tunic now to perhaps close out that breakpoint if necessary. If Charles suspects that this game's not going to go an extra 3 turns, that Tunic is very much well in play.
Yeah, I think we are firmly in the end game with both of these life totals, and both players trying to find that incremental advantage as they are finishing this out. And sitting on a 5-card hand with the life lead as Charles, I would feel far more comfortable than Tyler with no recourse as far as equipment is concerned, with no channel on the board, no arsenal going into your next turn. you're really kind of face up right now, and you need some extra juice, as it were.
So 10 damage is on the stack over here. On hit, draw a card, plus all the goodies that you can get from a Coax of Commotion as well. We're going to go ahead, and it looks like Charles Dunn wants to get use of that shield. I believe he's got a Fate Foreseen in hand as well, if necessary, and a Staunch Response. So I think what he wants to do here is he's looking perhaps to pitch the blue to pay for the Staunch and the shield, and perhaps follow it up maybe with a... What is he looking to do here?
Well, you need to cover 11 here. The number that you're looking to block here is 11 because you don't want the Amulet of Earth to pop off and give you the card draw. So this is an interesting moment because if you're not covering everything up, you could actually continue this turn by just misblocking.
Okay, so we're moving to reactions phase. He is holding on to a Fate Foreseen. He's blocking 6 plus the 1 prevention. That should cover up the 11 that you're talking about, which, like you mentioned, is a very, very key part. If you let anything leak through, it changes everything here. What Charles Dunn right now is looking for is, I want a card in Arsenal, and I want to throw a hammer at your face.
Yeah, and so this stymies that attack, right? This is blocking for, I believe it's for 6 on the Staunch. And is the Staunch covering 6? I believe it is, right?
The Staunch is covering, no, the Staunch is covering 5. Okay, 1 from the shield is 6. 1 prevention.
The Crown Prevention. Yeah, the Crown Prevention is floating for that extra 1. So there is no recourse. This is completely covered up unless there's something that we're missing. Either way, he is going to pop it. No, it is going to push the extra damage, perhaps, or maybe it just eats up that Crown Prevention, so that you can follow up for 2 and 2 there.
And I like that idea. I think that's a very astute way to, again, push damage through here, because if Charles Dunn just takes all of this, he goes down to 1, and then how do you reconcile that Rosetta? You need to time your Crown as much as possible. So what Charles is going to do here is he's going to not even have to worry too much about it. He's putting the life totals at parity here so that if he needs to, he can just pitch to absorb 1 of the Arcane and perhaps stay alive, because Rosetta is now the biggest threat to Charles Dunn's tournament here.
Exactly, and so coming for 4 with the Titan's Fist and keeping the Arsenal card, this is down to the wire, and no connection on that previous turn means no embodiment here, so your 2's blocked for 2. You're not actually going to be able to block extra value with your non-attacks. And looking at the hand, does look like, I think we see a tome, but there's a Sigil of Suffering.
Oh, nasty.
That's a huge play, because now the only way to stop that is to pitch away, and he's going to do it. And that's going to leak 1 for Tyler, because it only blocks 3, but it's going to get off Charles' Arsenal. So now he can't crown effectively. And with a 3-card hand, what is he going to be able to present? It looks like he's just going to go the old-fashioned Briar method of pitch a blue, make a rune chant, and then send that rune chant with either an attack or with Rosetta.
What a nasty time to get that. What is he peeling off the top? It's a red. That's a big one.
1 and 4.
All right, so 1 arcane damage off of that rune chant is met with 4 go again from the Ravenous Rabble, peeling a Channel Mount Heroic off the top. He's going to have to pitch into that. Now, he did find a blue. There's tons of them in that deck, so no worries there. So he's going to eat up that Rosetta, but he's going to eat up that arcane, but 4 go again is what he's responsible for right now. And we know that Guardian has a lot of 3 blocks, but it's the Rosetta Thorn that is the biggest threat right now.
Yeah, looking at this, like, There's some interesting squeaky things you can do with Earth reacting or Ice reacting to try and prevent some things, but you can't Ice react away the Tunic resource and the one that's floating to always present the 2 and 2 here. And so you're guaranteed to go to 1 unless you've got some sigils here, because you have to stop some amount of arcane damage.
All right, so again, we're at that juncture over here. Does Charles just swing hammer? I think you do. You got Tyler down to 1. He doesn't have an embodiment of Earth. Anything that leaks through is lethal. You do have the Tunic up that can be blocking up for 1 more, but
he does it again. He asks for it again, drops him to 1, covers it up completely.
Tyler's been finding those Sigils of Suffering at the right time.
Yes, those are key cards in this end game scenario. He's going to play the Channel Mount, and he's going to come in with, from the Arsenal, the Lightning Surge, pushing 7 with go again. And I think I saw a Command and Conquer, which would push 9 if he can pay for it from hand.
Well, that's 7 go again right out of the gate here, and it does put Rosetta Thorn online
Yes,
with
it
the
does.
tunic still up. So Tyler Horspool, thanking his lucky stars, he found that sigil of suffering when he did. But that's another staunch response in Charles's hand. But it's not necessarily about blocking this attack. It's the unblockable arcane damage that is going to follow this with Rosetta Thorn. Like I said earlier, Rosetta Thorn is going to be the biggest thorn in Charles Dunn's side here.
And it's most likely gonna lead to a win here from Tyler, unless there's some really tricky Earth React stuff that you can do to prevent that arcane damage. He's got to block this correctly. He knows he has the staunch response in hand, so he could possibly use that. But you do need some way to prevent that arcane damage. Otherwise, this game is all but closed out.
All right, so there's a Fate Foreseen still there, so that's a clean cover up. The 4 and the 3 from the Disable is going to cover that up. Now, there goes the Tunic resource. He's going to Earth React.
There's the Earth React to
prevent. Beautiful play by Charles Dunn over here, but he still needs to give up that card.
Yep, so there's the 2 that is going to be Earth Reacted away, and he's going to pitch into some of the Arcane and block some of it with the damage prevention there from the Earth React, and he's going to cover up that last bit with the wonderful block on Rampart there. So covering everything in the only way that he possibly could.
It's plays like that makes me think that Charles Dunn has never paid taxes in his life. Like that, like creative accounting kind of moves like that.
Dodging
incredible. Guaranteed he's going to take this footage and like claim it as a business expense too. Like he's an absolute magician how that worked out. I mean, so many players that are not on his level would have just basically died there.
Been over right there.
And he managed to weasel his way out of it, and he's got another 4-card hand. And again, we're talking about those kinds of turns that Briar has where they just draw dead into a lot of non-attacks, but that Channelbound Heroic is still on the board. Tyler Horspool is in control.
Premeditate here is going to give a buff if that card from the arsenal is indeed an attack. It's going to grant a buff, but it's also going to meet half of the requirement for a possible embodiment of lightning. No, he's just stacking up Arcane, and it was a Command and Conquer from last turn, pushing just a casual 12 damage.
He's got a 2-block
No defense reactions, no way to stop the extra buff, and the Arcane. There was too much to deal with.